The alarm started at 30 station time. Han Wu rolled out of his bunk in the human quarters and grabbed his toolkit. Before he was fully awake, the sound was wrong, not the usual pressure leak alarm or the weekly electrical fire. This was the deep bone-shaking wail that meant something big had broken. He ran through the corridors with his boots half-tied. Other species were emerging from their quarters, their many different faces, all showing the same expression, fear. The station's lights flickered. Han Wu had been an engineer for 15 years, and he knew what flickering lights meant on a space station. Nothing good. Command center was chaos when he arrived. Villari, the station commander, stood in the middle of the room. She was tall and insect-like with 4 arms that were all moving at once, touching different screens. Her translator device was smoking from overuse. Meteor storm, she said without looking up. 12 direct impacts to the outer ring. The quantum core is damaged. We have 96 hours before complete meltdown. Han Wu whistled low. The quantum core powered everything. Life support, gravity shields, communications. Without it, the station was just a very expensive coffin floating in space. What's the damage assessment? He asked. Cormash, the chief engineer, turned to face him. The crystalline alien's body was flashing red, which Han Wu had learned meant distress. The core containment field has 17 fractures. The cooling system is operating at 30%. The backup systems are offline. We have run the calculations. 473 times. There is no solution. No solution. Han Wu walked over to look at the readouts. The numbers were bad, really bad, but he had seen bad before. The repairs would require 48 hours in conditions. Kormos continued. We do not have ideal conditions. The core chamber is now flooded with radiation. The temperature is 600 degrees and rising. No species can survive those conditions long enough to make repairs. Evacuation is the only logical option. Villari's mandibles clicked together. Sign of deep stress. We have begun evacuation protocols, but we have 50,247 beings on the station. Our evacuation ships can carry 30,000. The nearest rescue fleet is 5 days away. The math was simple and horrible. 20,000 beings would die if they abandoned the station. What about the core stabilizers? Han Wu asked. Destroyed in the impacts. Cormash said. Even if they were functional, the installation would require precision that is impossible in these conditions. We have consulted with engineering teams from 17 species. All agree the station is lost. Han Wu and LT Unk and GTS communication device buzzed. It was Jai Wu, his systems analyst. Boss, tell me you're seeing what I'm seeing. The core meltdown. Yeah, I see it. I'm running some numbers. It's bad, but I think get the team together. Han Wu interrupted. Conference room 3. 5 minutes. He turned back to Villari. How many human engineers do we have on station? 8 of you, including yourself. You are all on the priority evacuation list. You will leave on the first transport. What if we stayed? The room went silent. Every alien present turned to look at him. Veeler's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of confusion. I do not understand. Stay to do what? To fix it. Cormash's crystalline body flashed bright red. Did you not hear me? It is mathematically impossible. The conditions are lethal. The time frame is insufficient. The Complexity exceeds. We can manage it. Hyun Woo said. The silence grew heavier. Valari tilted her head in the way that meant she was accessing her database of human expressions, trying to understand if this was humor or insanity. You will die, she said. Finally, maybe, but 20,000 people will definitely die if we run, so we'll stay and see what we can do. This is illogical. Yeah, we get that a lot. In Conference Room 3, Hyun Woo and LT Unk and GT's team assembled. Jai Woo arrived first, carrying 3 tablets and a cup of coffee that was visibly steaming. The temperature in the station was already rising. Tam Min came next, looking nervous and young. Dong Hyun arrived eating something that might have been breakfast. Non came last, carrying her medical bag and wearing the expression of someone who knew she was about to have a very long day. Right, Hyun Woo said, pulling up the core schematics on the main screen. We've got 96 hours to fix a quantum core that every alien engineer says is unfixable. Who wants to tell me why they're wrong? Jai Woo stood up. The aliens are working from standard protocols. Replace the containment field, reboot the cooling system, run diagnostics, bring the core back online. By the book. Takes 48 hours minimum with a full team in safe conditions, and we don't have that, Tammin said quietly. Right. So we don't do it by the book. Jiu pulled up her own calculations. We bypass the containment field entirely, build a temporary reactor using the cargo bay and these spare parts I found in inventory. Use it to power life support while we work on the main core. That's insane, Tam whispered. That's correct, Jai Woo agreed, but it'll work. Dong Hyun leaned forward. What about the cooling system? We improvise, whole plating as heat shields, route the environmental systems, maybe vent some excess heat directly into space if we have to. The radiation, Non asked. We work fast. I'll keep everyone dosed with antirad meds. It'll be unpleasant, but survivable probably. Hyun Woo looked around the table. This is going to be dangerous, maybe the most dangerous thing any of us have ever done. If anyone wants to take the evacuation ship, now's the time. No judgment. Nobody moved. All right then, Hyun Woo stood up. Let's an LT Unk and GT go tell the commander we're staying. Valari did not take it well. She insisted on assigning observer drones to follow the human team. When Hyun Woo asked why, she said, so that when you fail we will have documentation of exactly what went wrong. Your sacrifice will be studied. When take you. Gee, thanks. Also, Valari added, because if you somehow succeed, no one in the galaxy will believe it without proof. Hyun Woo grinned. Fair enough. Come on, team. We've got a station to save. The countdown began. 96 hours until meltdown. The humans got to work. Hour 12. The evacuation ships were still loading, moving slowly like a funeral procession. Hyun Woo watched them from a viewport for exactly 10 seconds before Jiu and LT Unk and GT's voice crackled over his radio. Boss, I need you in Cargo Bay 7. Bring Dong Hyun and the plasma cutters. The cargo bay was massive, designed to hold 3 transport ships at once. Jai Woo had cleared it out completely. Maybe had cleared all we in the center. She had arranged a collection of parts that looked like they had come from a dozen different machines, fuel cells, power converters, cooling units, and something that might have been a food processor. Tell me, this is the temporary reactor. Hyan Wu said, "This is the temporary reactor. It looks like a yard sale." "It's a beautiful yard sale that's going to keep life support running," Jai Wu pointed at different components, fuel cells for power generation. These converters will step down the output to something the station systems can use. The cooling units are from the agricultural sector. They're designed to keep fruit fresh. But heat is heat. Dong Hun walked around the assembly nodding slowly. This is either genius or we're all going to die in a terrible explosion. Why not both? Jiu asked cheerfully. They worked for 6 hours straight welding and wiring and occasionally arguing about which wire went where. The observer drones float nearby recording everything. One of them had a red light that blinked whenever the humans violated a safety protocol. It had been blinking continuously since they started. Radiation levels are spiking in the core chamber. Non called out over the radio. She was monitoring conditions from a makeshift medical station. You've got maybe 4 hours before that whole section is completely lethal. Understood, Hyan Wu replied. How are the anti-red meds holding up? We have enough for about 60 doses. That should cover the whole team for the duration. When the 4610, when the 16-second 10, assuming nobody does anything stupid, so we're definitely going to run out. Definitely. By hour 18, the temporary reactor was operational. It hummed and rattled and made concerning sounds, but the power flow was steady. Jai Wu rerouted the station's life support systems to run through it. For about 30 seconds, nothing happened. Then the lights came back to full brightness and the gravity stabilized. Wheeler's voice came over the station-wide communication system. Human engineers, your temporary power system is functioning. This is unexpected. However, the core chamber is now at 700 degrees. How do you intend to enter it? Hun Wu looked at the stack of hull plating they had pulled from a damaged section of the outer ring. We're going to build a heat shield. Hull plating is not designed for those temperatures. It's rated for atmospheric re-entry. How hot can one reactor be? The answer, as they discovered 1 hour later, was very hot. Hun Wu and Dong Hyan crawled through the access tunnel toward the core chamber, wearing suits that were designed for maintenance, not inferno exploration. The temperature readout on Hun Wu and LT Unk and GTS wrist device climbed past 800 degrees. This is insane, Dong Hyan said. His voice was distorted by the radio interference. You said that already. It bears repeating. The core chamber was a nightmare. The quantum core itself was a sphere of contained energy, now flickering with damaged containment fields. 17 fractures, just like Cormesh had said. The cooling pipes that should have been spraying liquid nitrogen were bent and broken. The whole room glowed with residual radiation. We need to stabilize the containment field first, Hyan Wu said. Otherwise the core will rupture before we can repair anything else. And how do we do that? Remember those emergency field generators in storage, the ones that are designed for hull breaches. Those are the ones. They dragged 6 emergency generators into position around the core. The generators were meant to create temporary force fields to seal holes in the station's hull until proper repairs could be made. They were not meant to contain a quantum reaction, but Hun Wu had stopped caring about what things were meant to do. Jai Wu were setting up the field Generators, can you sync them to the core's frequency and give me 5 minutes? She did it in 3, the field. Generators hummed to life, creating overlapping shields around the damaged core. The flickering slowed, then stopped. The containment field was holding. For now, that's one problem down. Hyun Woo said, now we need to fix the cooling system. The cooling pipes were a disaster. They would need to be completely replaced. And there was no time for that. Dong Hyun stared at them for a long moment, then smiled. It was not a comforting smile. What are you thinking? Hyun Woo asked. I'm thinking that if we can't replace the pipes, we remove the blockage. The blockage is melted metal fused into solid chunks. Right, so we blast it out. Blasted. Controlled explosion, very small, just enough to clear the pipes so coolant can flow again. Hyun Woo considered this. Every part of his engineering training screamed that this was a terrible idea. Then he looked at the countdown timer. 78 hours remaining. Do it, Dong Hun said. The charges with the care of a surgeon and the enthusiasm of a child at a fireworks show. Small-shaped charges positioned at 12 blockage points throughout the cooling system. They retreated to a safe distance. Dong Hyun held up the detonator. Fire in the hole. The explosion was not small. It was not controlled. It was loud and bright and shook the entire section of the station. Alarms began wailing. The observer drone spun in confused circles, but when the smoke cleared, coolant was flowing through the pipes again. I love it when a plan comes together, Dong Hyun said. That was your plan. It worked, didn't it? Back in the command center, Valari was experiencing something close to a breakdown. Her translator was sparking again. You detonated explosives next to an unstable quantum core. The probability of catastrophic failure was 97%. Any. But it didn't fail, Hyun Woo said calmly. That is not the point. Hour 24, the core temperature was dropping, not quickly, but steadily. The cooling system was working at 60% capacity. Now the containment field was stable. They were making progress, but new problems kept appearing. A structural support beam in Section 4 was failing. Ju had to reroute power through the station's entertainment system because all the primary conduits were damaged. For 6 hours, everyone on the station heard accordion music coming from the air vents. Tammin was keeping a safety log. On day 1, it had detailed notes about protocols and procedures. By hour 24, it just said God help us over and over. Non was rotating through the team, checking radiation exposure and vital signs. Everyone was tired, everyone hurt, nobody complained. Core temperature is at 600 degrees and falling, Jai Woo reported. We might actually do this. Don't jinx it, Hyun Woo said. That was when the structural integrity alarm started. The station's central spine, weakened by the meteor impacts and the stress of the past 24 hours, was beginning to collapse. Hyun Woo closed his eyes. Of course, it is hour 36. The station was bending, not collapsing yet, but bending. Metal groaned in ways that metal should not groan. Hyun Woo stood in the observatory deck, watching the outer ring twist slowly, like someone wringing out a towel. Talk to me, Ju. How bad is it? Her voice came back, tired and strained. The central spine has 17 stress fractures. The outer ring is experiencing torsional stress that exceeds design specifications by 40%. If We don't do something in the next 12 hours, the entire structure will tear itself apart, and then the core meltdown will be the least of our problems. Correct? Hun Woo rubbed his face. He had been awake for 36 hours straight. His radiation exposure was climbing into the danger zone. His hands were burned from working near the core, but the core itself was stabilizing. The temperature was down to 400 degrees. The containment field was holding. They were so close. Get me Minso, he said. Minso was their pilot, currently managing the evacuation ship. Coordination, she appeared on his screen. Looking confused. What's up, boss? What's up, boss? Those evacuation ships, the ones that are still docked. How many? 12. Why, I need them. For what? I'm going to use them as structural supports. There was a long silence. Then Meal started laughing. It was the slightly unhinged laugh of someone who had stopped being surprised by anything. You want to weld spaceships to the outside of the station to hold it together? Yes, that's the dumbest thing I've heard all day, and I watched Dong Hyen blow up a cooling system. Will it work? Mio pulled up the station schematics, overlaid the ship positions, ran some quick calculations. Her expression changed from amused to thoughtful. It might. The ships have structural integrity fields. If we position them correctly and sync the fields, they could redistribute the stress loads. It's insane, but it might work. That's the human motto. Get it done. Next 6 hours were a masterpiece of organized chaos. Mio coordinated with the remaining evacuation ships, repositioning them around the station's weak points. J. Sun, their fabricator specialist, was 3D printing custom mounting brackets that technically met structural requirements. Bo Ra, the structural engineer, was Spaceu, walking with a welding torch, personally attaching ships to the hull. The alien observers were no longer just documenting, they were placing bets. Cormesh had started a pool on whether the humans would succeed or create a second disaster. The odds were shifting. By the hour, we need more support on the dorsal spine, Bora called out. She was hanging upside down on the outside of the station, welding in zero gravity. The stress is still too high. We're out of ships, Menio replied. Then use something else. Cargo containers, shuttle pods, anything with structural integrity. Yeung perked up. What about cargo containers filled with expanding foam? Does that work? I have no idea. Let's find out. It worked, sort of. The foam expanded and hardened the vacuum, creating rigid support structures. They were ugly and probably violated every building code in the galaxy, but they held. Hour 42. Jai Wu made a discovery. Boss, I can communicate with the evacuation ships that already left. Their engines are still active, maintaining formation. So what if we use them as external thrusters? We could rotate the entire station to redistribute the stress across different sections. Hun Woo stopped what he was doing. Rotate the station 15 degrees, just enough to move the stress fractures to areas with better structural support. How precise would we need to be? Very. Margin of error is 3 seconds. If we're off, we could accelerate the collapse instead of preventing it. Can you do it? Jiu grinned. She looked like she had not slept in days because she had not. Her coffee had reached a temperature that could strip paint. Watch me out. She sent the coordinates to the evacuation ships, 23 ships all, at different distances, all with different engine Specifications: they needed to fire their thrusters in perfect synchronization to rotate a space station that was never designed to rotate. Young Sick, their navigator, took over the calculations. He was the quiet one on the team, the one who did his job without drama. Now, he was manually calculating thruster burns for 23 ships while the station was actively falling apart around him. "I've got it," he said finally, "but we only get one shot. If we mess this up, we'll create oscillations that will tear the station apart in minutes. No pressure." Han Wu said, "Exactly." They executed the maneuver at hour 48. 23 ships fired their engines simultaneously. The station began to rotate slowly and smoothly on the inside. Everyone felt the movement. Gravity shifted slightly. Unsecured objects started sliding across floors. Alarms wailed. Then it stopped. The station had rotated exactly 15 degrees. The stress readings dropped immediately. The fractures in the spine stopped growing. In the command center, Velari made a sound that her species used to express existential confusion. "You just rotated a space station by hand using evacuation ships as thrusters." "Yep," Yun Wu said. "This should not be possible." "We get that a lot, but there was no time to celebrate. The core was still not fully repaired. They had stabilized it, cooled it, and reinforced the containment, but bringing it back online was the most dangerous part. The restart sequence required precision that was difficult even in ideal conditions. And they still had one massive problem. When the core restarted, it would generate an electromagnetic pulse that would fry every improvised system they had installed. All of GU and LT UNC and GTS rerouted. Power conduits, all of the emergency generators, all of the synchronized ship thrusters, everything would fail at once. "So we need to shield everything?" Tamman asked. "Can't," Ju said. "We don't have EMP shielding for this many systems. It would take weeks to install." "Then what do we do?" Cormesh entered the room. The crystalline alien had been watching from the beginning, taking notes, analyzing everything. Now, he approached Haiyan Wu directly. "I want to help," he said. Haiyan Wu blinked. "What?" "You have done the impossible multiple times. I have watched, I have learned. I do not understand how you succeed, but you do, so I want to help. Tell me what to do." Han Wu looked at his team. They were exhausted, injured, and running on stimulants in spite. But they were not done yet. "Can you handle high precision electrical work in a high radiation environment?" "I can." "Then welcome to the team. We're going to need everyone we have for this last part." Hour 60, the station was stable but fragile. The core was ready to restart, and the humans were preparing for the most dangerous 12 minutes of their lives. "Remember," Han Wu said over the radio, "when that core comes online, we'll have exactly 7 minutes before the EMP hits. 7 minutes to shut down all our improvised systems manually and restart them on the shielded backups. If we're too slow, everything fails and we're back where we started. And if we're too fast," Tamman asked, "then the core destabilizes and we die in an explosion. So don't be too fast." "Great, no pressure." Haiyan Wu smiled. It was the smile of a man who had run out of fear and found something else on the other side. "Let's finish this." Hour 72. The reactor core chamber looked like the inside of a star. Heat shimmered in waves that made the air itself seem alive. Radiation counters screamed Warnings that everyone had learned to ignore. Han Wu stood at the entrance, wearing 3 radiation suits layered on top of each other because one was simply not enough. This is a terrible idea, Non said, checking his vital signs one last time. I know you're going to absorb more radiation in 10 minutes than most people see in a lifetime. I know you could die, Non. Han Wu put a hand on her shoulder. If I don't go in there and manually override the safety locks, the core restart will fail. If the restart fails, the core melts down. If the core melts down, everyone dies. So yeah, this is dangerous, but it's less dangerous than the alternative. She handed him a syringe full of bright blue liquid antirad meds, double dose. It'll make you sick, but it might keep you alive long enough to finish the job. He took the injection and immediately felt nauseous. Great, let's do this before I pass out. The core chamber was worse than he expected. The temperature gauge on his suit was maxed out, simply displaying error, or because the readings were beyond its range. He could feel the heat through 3 layers of protective gear. Every breath was like inhaling fire. The quantum core pulsed in the center of the room, contained by the emergency field generators they had installed days ago. It was beautiful and terrifying, a sphere of pure energy held together by improvised equipment that was never meant for this purpose. Han Wu approached the manual override panel. It was an old-fashioned mechanical system, designed as a last resort when all electronic controls failed. Right now, it was their only option. The panel was hot enough to glow. Jai Wu, I'm at the override panel. Walk me through this. Her voice came back, distorted by radiation interference. There are 7 manual locks. You need to release them in sequence, then turn the primary valve to vent excess energy. Before restart, the timing has to be exact. Too early in the core destabilizes. Too late and the pressure buildup will cause an explosion. How exact? Within 2 seconds, of course it is. He grabbed the first lock with his gloved hands. The metal was so hot he could feel it through the insulation. He turned it. The lock resisted, corroded, and damaged from days of extreme heat. He pulled harder. Something in his shoulder popped. The lock turned. 6 more to go. Outside the core chamber, the rest of the team was preparing for the restart sequence. Jiu was at her command station, surrounded by 47 different screens showing 47 different systems. All of them needed to be managed simultaneously during the 7-minute window between restart and EMP. Young Sik was at the thruster controls, ready to make micro adjustments to keep the station stable. Bora was suited up and waiting at critical structural points, ready to manually reinforce anything that started to fail. Dong Haiyan was standing by with emergency repair equipment, looking disappointed that nothing had exploded recently. Tae Min was still keeping his log. It now simply read, we're all going to die, but at least we tried. Second lock is stuck. Han Wu reported he was breathing hard. Now the heat was overwhelming. Sweat poured down his face inside the helmet. It's not moving. Use the hydraulic assist. Jiu said. The what? The wrench. I mean the wrench. Sorry, I haven't slept in 3 days. Han Wu pulled out his wrench and used it as leverage. The lock groaned, then suddenly gave way. He stumbled backward, nearly falling into a pool of coolant that was actively boiling. Second lock released, moving 2. 3. Kormos watched from the command Center, his crystalline body flashing. Colors that indicated intense concentration. He was learning more about human engineering in these few days than he had learned in his entire career. None of it made sense. All of it worked. How are they doing this? He asked Villori. I do not know. I have stopped trying to understand. I am simply documenting. They violate every principle of safe engineering. Yes, they use equipment in ways it was never designed. Yes, they ignore probability calculations and risk assessments. Yes, and they succeed. Villari's mandibles clicked in what might have been respect or surrender. Yes, Haiyan Wu released the fourth lock. Then the fifth. His hands were shaking. Now, radiation sickness was setting in. The nausea was worse, his vision blurred at the edges, but he kept working. Sixth lock, he said. His voice was weak. Almost there. Vital signs are dropping. None called out. Heart rate elevated, blood pressure falling. He's got maybe 5 minutes before he collapses. Haiyan Wu, you need to move faster, Jiawu said, working on it. Sixth lock released. One more. His hands were barely responding now. Radiation suit was failing. Alarms screaming inside his helmet. Everything hurt. He grabbed the seventh lock. It would not move. Problem, he said. Last lock is completely frozen. I think it's welded shut from the heat. Can you break it? Jiawu asked. Not without damaging the system. Then you have to cut through it. There's a plasma cutter in the emergency kit on the wall. Haiyan Wu looked at the wall. It seemed very far away. Everything seemed far away. He took a step and his legs nearly gave out. Another step. He reached the wall and grabbed the plasma cutter. His hands could barely hold it. He returned to the panel and activated the cutter. The bright blue flame reflected off his visor. He carefully cut around the frozen lock, melting through the corroded metal. His hands were steady. Despite everything, years of experience took over when his body was failing. The lock fell away. 7 locks released. Locks are open, he said. The primary valve was a large wheel that needed to be turned manually. Haiyan Wu grabbed it with both hands and pulled. It did not move. He pulled harder. His vision went dark at the edges. His legs buckled. I can't. It's too tight. Haiyan Wu, you have to turn that valve now. Jiu and LT Unk and GT's voice was panicked. Core pressure is spiking. 30 seconds until catastrophic failure. He pulled with everything he had left. The suit servos wind assisting his strength. The valve turned 1 degrees 2 degrees, 5 degrees. It started to move easier now. He turned it as fast as he could, watching the pressure gauge drop as excess energy vented safely into the containment system. Venting complete, he gasped. Core is ready for restart. Get out of there. Haiyan Wu turned to leave and collapsed. His legs simply stopped working. He lay on the burning floor, unable to move. The radiation counter on his wrist had stopped counting. It just displayed a skull symbol. I can't. And LT Unk and GT move, he said quietly. Dong Hun, get in there, Jiu ordered. Dong Hun was already running. He burst into the core chamber, wearing his own triple-layer radiation suits, grabbed Haiyan Wu and dragged him out. They made it through the door just as the core restart sequence began. The quantum core pulsed once, twice, then ignited with a light that could be seen from space. Power flooded through the station systems. Lights that had been dim for days blazed at full brightness. Gravity stabilized completely. The temperature started dropping as proper cooling kicked in, and then came the EMP. Every improvised system shut down simultaneously. The temporary reactor went dark. The emergency generators failed. The synchronized ship thrusters cut out. For 5 terrible seconds the station was completely dead in space. Then Ju and LT Uncan GTS fingers flew across her controls. She activated the shielded backup systems, one by one, routing power through pathways that had been prepared for exactly this moment. The lights came back on, life support resumed. The structural integrity fields reactivated, all systems nominal, she said, and then put her head down on her desk. The station was saved. Hour 75. Haiyan Wu woke up in the medical bay. Non was standing over him with a scanner. "You're going to be sick for a week," she said, "but you'll live." "Did it work?" "See for yourself." She helped him sit up. Through the medical bay window, he could see the station. Lights were on, ships were moving normally, people were walking through the corridors. Everything was working. "We did it," he said. "You did it. You insane, wonderful, terrifying humans did it." Haiyan Wu smiled and then immediately fell back asleep. 1 week later, Haiyan Wu was still in the medical bay. The radiation treatments were working, but slowly. Non had banned him from any physical activity, which left him with nothing to do except watch station operations on the monitors and plan his next project. "You're supposed to be resting," Jiu said. Walking in with 2 cups of coffee, she handed him one. "I am resting, and planning." "Did you see the efficiency reports on the core? It's running better than before the damage." "That's because you rebuilt half of it with better components." "Exactly." He sipped the coffee. "It was terrible. Station coffee always was." "What's the final count on our improvised systems?" 70% are still in place. The alien engineering teams tried to replace them with proper equipment, but they found that your improvised systems actually work better. The temporary reactor, they're keeping it as a permanent backup. The hull plating, heat shields, now part of the standard design. The emergency field generators, they're ordering 50 more, so we accidentally upgraded the station while saving it. Basically, yes. The door opened. Velari entered, followed by Kormos and several other alien officials. They all looked at Haiyan Wu with expressions that ranged from respect to mild fear. "Human Haiyan Wu," Velari said formally, "on behalf of the Galactic Station Authority, I offer gratitude for your service. You and your team saved 50,000 lives through actions that should have been impossible. We just did what needed to be done." "No. You did what every expert said could not be done. We have reviewed the documentation. Your team violated 473 safety protocols, ignored probability assessments that showed a 99% chance of failure, and used equipment in ways that no manufacturer would approve." "Is this the part where you fine us?" "This is the part where we offer you permanent positions as chief engineers of this station. All 8 of you with full authority to make modifications as you see fit." Haiyan Wu blinked. "You want us to stay?" Kormos stepped forward. "I want to learn from you. Your methods are chaotic and illogical, but your results are undeniable. You have shown me that sometimes the answer is not to follow the procedure, but to create a new procedure. I request permission to study under your team. You want to learn improvisational engineering. I want to learn how to succeed when success is impossible. Jiu grinned. I like him. He can stay in the Galactic Council Chambers 300 light years away. Ambassador Thrnak was presenting to the assembled representatives. The recording of the station repair played on the main view screen. Aliens watched in silence as the humans worked, broke rules, improvised solutions, and somehow saved the day. This is the human species, then said. They do not have the strongest ships or the most advanced technology, but they have something we have spent millennia trying to engineer out of ourselves. They have the ability to look at an impossible situation and simply refuse to accept that it is impossible. This is dangerous thinking, one representative said. They ignore safety for results. They ignore excessive safety for better results. Thrnak corrected. Look at their track record. They lose fewer lives than we do, not more, because when disaster strikes, they do not follow evacuation procedures and accept losses. They stay and fix the problem. What do you propose? I propose we stop treating human methods as aberrations and start treating them as alternatives. We have been over-engineering for safety. They engineer for success. Perhaps there is wisdom in both approaches. The Council voted. The measure passed. Human engineering teams would now be available for emergency situations across the galaxy. The phrase "call the humans" became standard protocol for supposedly impossible problems. 2 weeks after the incident, a transport ship arrived at the station, the human ship Resilience, carrying supplies and a new crew rotation. Subin, the ship's captain, was greeted by a crowd of aliens and humans who treated the engineering team like celebrities. I heard you saved the station, Subin said to Hunwoo. We did what we could. The story is all over the galaxy. 8 humans fix impossible problem. You're famous. We're really not. Oh, but you are. She handed him a data pad. This is the new bestseller. 16 systems, what not to do. A human engineer's guide by Tammin. It's his safety logs from the repair mission. Hun Woo pulled up the file. It was Tammin's safety log, complete with every violation, every improvised solution, and every moment of pure chaos. The introduction read, "This is a complete record of everything you should never do. According to galactic engineering standards, it is also a complete record of how to save 50,000 lives when those standards have failed. He's made a fortune on the royalties," Subin said. Apparently, half the galaxy is reading it as a horror story, and the other half is reading it as an instruction manual. Hunwoo laughed. It hurt his still healing chest, but he laughed anyway. The station settled into a new normal. The human engineer stayed, now officially recognized as the permanent crisis response team. Cormash and 15 other alien engineers joined their team, learning the art of creative problem solving. The observer drones were reprogrammed to document solutions instead of violations. Villari found that she had stopped being stressed about the humans breaking rules. Now she was stressed when they were too quiet, because that meant they were planning something. Month 2 after the incident, an emergency call came in from a mining station in the Outer Rim. Critical system failure, 30 hours until life support collapse. All conventional solutions had failed. We need a human engineering team, the station commander said. We heard they can manage it. Hyen Wu still recovering but mobile now. Looked at his team. Ju was already packing her tools. Dong Hyen was checking his explosive charges. Tae Min was opening a new safety log with a resigned expression. Non was loading her medical supplies. Bora was reviewing structural engineering software. Young Sik was plotting the course. Jong was running diagnostics on the fabrication equipment. Boss Ju asked, "What do you say?" Han Wu picked up his toolkit, the same one he had used since day one, held together with tape and hope, and somehow still functional. "We can manage it." The team loaded onto their transport. Kormesh and his alien engineers came with them. Eager to learn, Villari watched them go, feeling something she had not felt before. Confidence, not confidence that everything would go according to plan, but confidence that when the plan failed, the humans would find another way. The transport departed. Inside, Ju was already running calculations for impossible solutions. Dong Hyen was explaining to Kormesh why sometimes the best tool was a well-placed explosion. Tam was writing in his log, day one of the new mission. "We're all going to die, but at least we'll die doing something amazing." Mining station distress call showed a failure that every expert had declared unsolvable. Life support was failing, the reactor was unstable, the structure was compromised. Evacuation was the only logical option, but Han Wu read the reports and smiled. "This looks manageable." W2. "It's rated as an extinction-level crisis for the station." Kormesh said, "How is this manageable? How is this manageable?" "You've got a lot to learn. First lesson, never believe anyone who says something can't be done. They're just telling you they don't know how to do it. Second lesson, everything is fixable if you're creative enough. Third lesson, safety protocols are guidelines, not laws. That sounds dangerous. It is, but you know what's more dangerous? Giving up. We don't do that." The transport approached the failing mining station. The crew could see the damage from a distance: structural breaches, failing power systems, and a reactor that was minutes from meltdown. It looked impossible. "All right, team," Hyen Wu said over the radio, "let's show them how humans solve problems. First step, ignore everything they say can't be done. Second step, do it anyway. Third step, act like it was easy. And if it doesn't work," Tammin asked, "then we improvise. That's what we're good at." The transport docked. The human engineering team emerged, carrying their battered toolkits and impossible confidence. The mining station crew watched them with hope and terror in equal measure. Han Wu looked around at the failing station, the panicking crew, the impossible situation. He had seen this before. They all had, and they had always found a way through. About though right, he said. "Let's get to work. We can manage it." And somewhere in the galaxy, on 1,000 different stations and ships, beings who had once given up hope started to believe in a new phrase. A human phrase, a promise and a warning. And a declaration all at once: we can manage it. Because when humans said those words, they meant it.